Welcome back, YouTube. So I wanted to just address the current state of the crypto market and also tie it into the inflation numbers that we're getting now. Because I remember back when I first started reporting on Dogecoin and different currencies, a lot of people were concerned, and even some people that didn't like the coin were saying that, oh, because of the inflation rate or because of the amount of new coins that are printed, it's eventually going to be worthless. And they said they wouldn't have any value because they make X amount of coins every day, and this is what's going to drive the coin to zero. And I wanted to point this out because when you have a fixed inflation rate, it is always going to be superior to a variable. So it's just like think about it on your mortgage on your home. Fixed rate is always going to be superior to a variable rate because it's going to adjust with the times. And right now, we're seeing numbers that we've got the highest inflation for a single month since 1990. Now, I wasn't even born in 1990. So we have these pretty much runaway inflation that we're pretty much setting records now for the new century. And it's literally going to, well, because there's a chart. I haven't received it. I know I said I was going to get it, but there's a chart that shows like the date that the dollar, even if it just maintained its average, that the dollar's inflation rate would outpace Dogecoin. And it's looking like that day is coming sooner rather than later. I'm seeing numbers of anywhere from 6.2% to 8.6% just for the month of October. It is far above the Fed's expected rate, and they have not got this under control yet. And this comes down to the point of investing. So typically over time, outside of like the stock market or investing in businesses, technically people use gold as a way to hedge themselves against inflation. And it's more of like an insurance policy because gold isn't necessarily going to generate like cash flow or necessarily make you richer in the short term, but it would also kind of ensure that you don't go broke either because what inflation does is literally robbing you of wealth. There's a chart that I posted saying that if you had invested $100 into the S&P in I want to say like 1920 or something like that, it would be worth like $2 today compared to, no, excuse me, if you had not invested, it'd be worth $2 today. But if you had invested, it would be like 5 million or something like that. And that just shows you the power of inflation. If you're not doing anything with your money, the money is ultimately going to zero. And it's not just the United States. We can get into the politics behind it, but all currencies eventually go to zero and there's a reset. The dollar's been reset several times. They've tweaked it on and off the gold standard, partially on, stuff like that. But all currencies eventually go to zero. And it's not saying that they'll come up with a new system, a new dollar or whatever name they're going to be, Fed coin, whatever. They'll come up with something new. But the people technically that get caught in between, they usually get wiped out. And the people who are on the bottom or in the middle class, they normally get screwed the most. And that's one of the reasons why I love my channel and I love doing what I do, is because we have the opportunity to have these conversations. Primarily now, since we're in a period of transition, we can have this conversation before this gets out of hand. I posted it was actually posted on my Twitter account. It was actually 10 years ago today that I posted, it makes absolutely no sense to hold the dollar. It's practically stupid. And I posted that 10 years ago today. And it's funny that these numbers are coming out today saying that they still haven't gotten inflation under control. And this is the worst month that's been since, the last like 30 years. So when you have coins and assets like that either has no inflation rate or a fixed inflation rate, you're going to start seeing returns or just the overall price of the coin going up compared to the dollar, just because of the amount of dollars it would take to purchase the same amount of goods. And technically, that comes from when we have because I know technically we say, oh, they're printing money or, they're adding zeros on the computer. What happens is when we inject our economy with money, that money has to be absorbed. Our money always has to be attached to something. So this is why we see technically the favorite thing that here in America that we like to use is real estate. So that's technically one of the things that we'll have appreciation on is the extra currency that's in the market as far as for the banks having it and making it cheaper to lend out. making the interest rate cheaper for them to lend out. It makes it easily more accessible. We can take out more money, and it pushes the prices of the homes up. So the money has to be attached to something. Another one here is the medical industry. That's one of the reasons why medicine and surgeries are, pretty much jumping 100% year over year. That money has to be attached for something. Another one we like to use is the educational system. A lot of people have student loans, and that the cost of education is also jumping up several, 10, 20, well, over the course of like a few years, it's jumping up several, decimals as far as for in percentage wise, the price going up. So, it may be like 20% more expensive compared to 2 years ago. So, and this is literally the result of inflation and them being forced to attach more cash or debt to assets that engage with the economy in order to get rid of it, because the money has to be returned and it can't just sit. So it has to, the more cash you have chasing the same amount of goods, technically that causes inflation to absorb that currency. So whether it's a pandemic or the government feels like giving out money, right after you see a large injection of cash, you can expect inflation. And this is what's happening now. We're pretty much just feeling the consequences of a lot of the money that was handed out. And this happens whether you're going to do it on an institutional level or on a private level or a retail level. And pretty much until that money is, absorbed or taken on by the community, we're going to see a lot of the shockwaves from the inflation. Because if people aren't going back to work, and if they are not taking out new loans and pretty much not absorbing this cash that's been injecting into the economy, we're going to see the inflation rate continuously start swinging around. And this is one of the reasons why the Feds haven't been able to predict the inflation rate month over month, and why it keeps beating the actual projections. So more money is not certainly not going to grab hold of the inflation, and certainly roads and bridges aren't going to take care of it either. But that's another conversation. I just wanted to provide some general information for you. But again, attach yourself to assets, and you'll see things like gold, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, real estate. You'll see them appreciate. And appreciation does not necessarily mean it can mean, but it's not always an indicator of an actual wealth increase, because you have to account for the inflation and the overall price increase to kind of get an idea. So you always measure wealth or the value of something with how much of the goods you can actually purchase. Never do it with the dollar. The dollar is going to fluctuate. So you can take gold and say, okay, well, how much gold or how much Bitcoin does it take to purchase this amount of goods? And this will give you an idea of the actual value. When you're doing it with dollars, it's always going to take more and more and more over time. And you'll see with the Bitcoins or these coins that are coming out, it's actually taking less and less and less of them to purchase the same amount of goods, and the dollar is going the opposite way. So that's kind of I'll say a brief explanation of price versus value. So again, always lock in with your assets and pay attention to these numbers. I believe that over the next few years, we're going to see a lot of changes into the economy. And I believe it's in my opinion that this is certainly going to get worse before it gets better. These numbers aren't looking good, especially the ones in the market. A lot of cash has been injected. The market's been going up for around 18 months straight now. If you're long term, obviously coin count, stocks matter the most, but and it's possible that we can see another incline. I don't believe that necessarily we're going to have a correction or a crash. That's not what I'm saying. Probably for another year or so overall, but just kind of be mindful of that and always prepare and hedge yourself. And I'll be releasing some content on hedging as well as in my ebook, so we'll be able to cover that together. But just be mindful and track these numbers so that you can best allocate your portfolio and grow in any times, because you can make a lot more money in a bad market than you can in a good market. So just stay on top of things, keep track of your numbers, and be well. I appreciate all of you. If you found value in this video, you liked anything I had to say, please consider subscribing. hitting the like button on this video. It helps YouTube send it out to more people. It helps the channel grow, and it helps us educate and further diversify our conversation. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And until next time.